Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. Little reminder in case you just got here or arrived recently. The restrooms are down these stairs, and the men's are straight ahead through the kitchen, and the ladies are catty corner when you come out of the kitchen. Eat the food, please. Please. We do have some to-go boxes, so perhaps at the end we'll be doing that as well. We were hoping for the sober house kids to show up a little bit more, but well, I mean, I don't know what it's like to live in a sober house, but I'm guessing this isn't maybe the coolest thing to be doing on a Saturday afternoon when you live at the beach at a sober house. I don't know. But maybe they'll show up a little later and they can come in and clean up all that food for us. A reminder that we have our email sign up. This is being recorded, and if you would like to get a recording of all of these, please come over and sign up. Our Southern Tradition basket is over there as well, right? And we appreciate y'all being a part of both of those things. We'd love for this to be able to get out, and y'all can share it with people. It's a pretty simple format that it'll come across in your email, easily shareable. All right, so our next speaker, Miss Donna, who was coming to the event because we have a special bond, and we hadn't seen each other in a little over a year, and she's been walking with me on this journey for the last year and a half or so, and we had met at the second one of these when she came with a dear friend of ours, Alice, and Alice was speaking that weekend, and she came with her, and we got to chit-chat a little bit, and I knew at that moment I was going to invite her for the next one, and she would come the next year, and then we would run into each other at Fots, New York, and spend some time, and this program's amazing because when you're seeking teachers and guides, God just puts them everywhere, and so what happened was at this time a year and a half ago or so, I was looking for a guide, and there was only one name that kept coming up in quiet time, and that was her. And in the back of my head, I'm like, she's a woman, right? But God's been funny with me and women, right? Because I've had to do a lot of inventory on that. I don't know how affected y'all were by your household growing up, but I was incredibly affected by learned behavior, and that involved women, right, and where they were supposed to be and positioned, and when I came to a place where I was willing to take an honest look at that, what God did was start putting all these powerful women in my life, and there's three of them here today, but this one I've walked very closely with because that's what God's intent was, and what happened was we were going to have a AA and Al-Anon couple come up, and Calvin, who I don't think he knew it at the time, but he was going to actually have to do 4, 5, 6, and 7. So, and so what happened was this couple had an opportunity to go spend a weekend sharing their journey with a bunch of people on a retreat, and I was like, listen, that sounds like a beautiful experience. We'll keep you in mind for next year, and at that moment, it came to us that we have some beautiful spirits in this audience, and perhaps maybe we could invite them to be a part of, and that's what happened when we split up 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and Donna was more than gracious to accept that invite, and a selfish note, I am really excited because I've heard her speak on 6 and 7, and I've had the experience of her sharing with me how I can go into 6 and 7 as I've come out of some inventory with her, and I know it. No, I don't. It's going to be amazing. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Donna, I'm an alcoholic. And he listens to his sponsor because I always say, we don't know. We don't know. Can I take this out of here? So I had a wonderful teacher. I had many teachers, and Rashid would say whenever I was at an in-person meeting and I was sitting behind a table or behind a podium, he would always say, get in front, because it means that there's nothing separating me from you. And all my life I thought that there was something separating me from you. Thank God for step 4, because I could get to see I'm no more or no less than you. I want to start my step 6 on Nicoletta's step 1, because I have a deep 6 and 7 step experience when I have a deep first step experience. And she said in step 1, I was willing to step into the unknown. And I want to add that I gave myself permission to see what is really wrong with me, because I never knew what was wrong with me. I did know that I was always a seeker. I didn't know what it was I was seeking. Like you, my dad drank, my dad gambled, and my mom was very angry. So I grew up thinking that there was something wrong with me. And I remember I got a report card that I thought my mom would be impressed with, and I couldn't wait for her to tell me how proud she was, and she was washing dishes. And it's amazing, there's some experiences that I don't forget, and one of them was I couldn't wait to show her my report card. And she turned to me and said, "What?" I was crushed. And so I grew up very fearful. I grew up that nothing I would do would make you like me, even though you did like me, but I didn't like me. I get a chance to see in step 4, why I don't like myself. And it took me to be on this spiritual journey to really understand that statement of I don't like myself. The true I within did not like the self I became. But I didn't know any of that. All I knew is that when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, my sobriety date is August 5th, 2000. I did not stop drinking that day. A power burst upon me that I had never felt before, and I knew that I was done. And I remember I went into my mom and I told her I was done. I never felt done before. I did not surrender. I think, Nicoletta, you said I was surrendered, because if it was up to me, I would have done it on August 4th. I tried to commit suicide 10 years before August 5th, 2000, and never once did my mind say, "Donna, what are you doing? That does not seem like the brightest thing to do." I didn't realize that my drinking was a series of next times. I couldn't see the truth. And so I believe that I was brought into consciousness on August 5th, 2000. I went to Catholic school for 13 years, including kindergarten, and I could not hear a message. But something happened to me that all of a sudden I was able to hear the message. We talk about in how it works. Do we want what they have? Do I want the it? I did not know the it was God. I just knew that there was something that people had that I've always wanted all of my life, because I realized I've always been a seeker. And so I believe it was Brenda was the first person I heard that say that we become lights. See, I believe that God enables me to hear what I need to hear when you guys share. Because you can share a lot of things, and maybe it's the one thing. I heard Juanita, who's in our sister program, say that her concern over what people think and feel about her has more power than her faith in God. And Juanita had shared for 45 minutes, but I heard that. And I was able to hear that because that's what I'm able to share with people. When I can see the world and people still have power over them. So by way of Juanita, God gave me a message that I can carry to others. And so I'm at step 6. Step 6 is smack dab in the middle of willing to die to self. And in step 7, so God can live life in and through me. And that's one of the prayers that I say every day, is God, I'm willing to die to self so you can live life. You love them through me. Because my ego wants to look at your personality and your behavior to do one thing, to judge me. If there's anything about you that I admire, my mind will tell me, see, they're better than you, Donna. And if there's something about me that's better than you, then I start thinking I'm this great big such and much, this great big Willy Bobo, and both are a lie. And so God, please let me see behind a person's personality and behavior. And see, that's why step 4 was so powerful, because I get to see that each and every one of us do the very best that each and every one of us can do to live. I hated my mom most of my life, and while I was writing step 4, I had visions of my mom from a perspective that I could never see her. See, every now and then we would have to go to the Grand Central Station on the 6th train and stand in the middle of the platform while my uncle, who was a conductor, handed her an envelope, and that was money to help pay the mortgage because my dad drank and gambled. I saw that as I was writing my inventory on my mom. I had the vision of her renting a Royal typewriter so that she can teach herself how to type so she can go to work. I saw that as I was writing inventory on my mom. And see, my mind wants to look at you in one way, and that's the only way that I see you. And I put you in a picture frame and hang you on the wall, and that's how I see you until God lets me see you the way he sees you, as another child of his who has not had an opportunity to surrender, who hasn't had an opportunity to see that what this whole deal is about. See, I'm the more I'm on this path, and my path has not always been straight, it's been crooked, because I had a period my first time through the work that when I got to steps 10 and 11, my mind would tell me that I didn't have time to pray, I didn't have time, and I started to be of the world again. Power, money, and prestige became my way, and I realized that I'm not like normal people. Not only does it come to drinking, but I'm not like normal people, because normal people don't do what we do until we can't do this anymore. One of my latest teachers, her name was Gwen. She passed away at 91. When she was 90, she said that she knows God's going to take her, but she has a newcomer. Can you imagine 90 with a newcomer? She had a newcomer, and she says that I want to get her down this path a little further before I leave her. And so Gwen was put in my path so I can see that there's going to be many things that I do in life, many things that I stop doing in life, but the one thing that we will all do is this. We're not like normal people. My very life depends on me being of service to God. See, they call us agents. For those of you that are on a spiritual path, this may not freak you out. For those of you that are just beginning, don't worry about trying to catch up. It's about catching on. That we become God in human form. So if that freaks you out, don't worry. I think all that is required of us is to be in position. And we don't know who we're in position for. Nor does it matter. See, I get to see that if I didn't live my life like I was dying, I would not be seeking a relationship with God the way that I do. And because of my willingness and my desire, God has put powerful teachers in my life. And when I say powerful, there was something, the power of God in them that I felt. I was talking to Shannon, and we share a teacher, Adrian. We're all connected to other seekers. So I look at step 6, and it's interesting because I'm so busy looking at you, I can't see me. You know, it says there's a finger pointing at you and 3 pointing back. But look how short the ones that are pointing back to me. The one pointing at you, I can see that. And I remember the first time I did a 4th step, I was willing. See, I was carrying my inventory to the beach. I was carrying inventory because I was willing to believe what they said, Donna, the only thing you bring to the deal is willingness, open-mindedness, and honesty, and that has not changed in 20-something years. I remember I was leaving my job one day, and there was a bench, and I'd never seen that bench, but all of a sudden I saw the bench, and I felt like I was led to sit down and write. It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path, but we do a lot of loitering. And the ego wants us to loiter because it tells us that everything else is more important than freedom. But after a deep first step experience, I got a chance to see, wow, why didn't my mind ever let me see the truth about alcohol? Why is it that I get into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and I realize that all I had was a series of unsuccessful next times? And I started, because sometimes going through the big book is a word-by-word exercise, I started to have an experience with the word relieved, removed, disappeared. It doesn't say that they stopped drinking. And then what happened to me on August 5th, 2000, I realized what happened on August 5th, 2000. I was brought into consciousness. And I allowed myself to be led. Because I couldn't do anything without a drink or a drug. And how do I get from Queens to Manhattan without a drink? I didn't stop at the liquor store before I got on the bus. I didn't get off at the subway. Because, see, I was an after-hours girl. I knew every after-hours below 59th Street. And between Queens and Beth Israel on 21st Street, there was a number of after hours. I didn't get off the subway. How did that happen? I know how it happened. God removed the problem. And so that gave me enough willingness to give myself permission to discover what is wrong with me. And so I remember I did this inventory, and I'm able to see my behavior is no more different than yours. See, my ego has a way of kind of categorizing behavior, like, oh, that's terrible. And then other behavior, it's not so bad. And I realized that that's what I was doing. I was justifying some behavior and appalled by others, and I saw that it was all pretty much the same. We all have the right to be right. We all have the right to be wrong. I don't think we have the right to hurt one another. And so I remember my first fifth step. Oh my God, I was walking to Rashid because I did fifth step with two men the first time through the work. And I was able to see this laundry list of behavior that I had been so asleep to because I was so busy looking at you. And I remember I looked at a list, and Rashid had a list. It says in the 12 and 12 we look at our assets, and he had a list of some of the qualities that were pretty decent. The list was not long, but we're not all bad people, if we want to use the word bad. And I looked at both lists, and all of a sudden I realized, holy crap, I saw what God's intention was for me, not what I became without God. And my head dropped to the table, and I wept. I'd never wept in my life before I wept. And then without my permission, all of a sudden, some of the behaviors, it was not a need. They just didn't seem to be important for me to be manipulative, for me to, I can't even think of the ones that were easy, but I got to tell you, the ones that did crop up, I felt a separation from God. I remember right after my fifth step with Adrian, I was at work and my boss asked me to do something, and of course my ego wanted me to feel as if he was asking something that was unrealistic, and all of a sudden I felt indignant, and I felt indignant. See, not only do I get to see these words, I get to feel what it feels like, and when I feel that way, it feels like I get this disconnection from this peace that I was in. My 6 and 7 is part of my 10th step, and I learned that from Gwen. See, I can watch all that I want. My ego doesn't care if I watch, but am I willing to ask God to remove what I see? And the way I do it is like I don't even try to write it. I use my phone, and I mic it because sometimes I can get caught up in typing, and then it loses its whatever. And so I just turn on the mic and I go right into step 4. I can't believe I did this. Step 5 is I'm sharing it with Gwen. Step 6 is, God, please remove this behavior and show me how to be more. And then my step 7, God, I'm willing to give more of me to all of you. And so my step 10, I bring 6 and 7 in the mix. And so I'm on step 6 the first time, and I have this laundry list, and I'm like, oh my God, there was nothing that I really wanted to hold on to. It was interesting, I just did a chunk of inventory, and this was the first time that there was something on that list that I didn't want to let go of, and that was being lazy, because if I give up being lazy, I got to work. So step 6, God in his loving way, he lets us see our lives without God. Because everything is suggested. It's suggested in the big book. If I'm willing to go to any length, the word suggestion is something that I want to do. If I'm not ready, a suggestion is something that I don't have to do. Right? The choice is up to you. How free do you want to be? And so when I look at step 6 today, I see this, I get to see what I waste my time focusing on, things that are selfish and self-centered in nature. But I get to see by the people who are on this path before me what my responsibility is, and it's to be of service. And the way I show up in selfishness and self-centeredness, that interferes with me being of service. So I like to look at step 6 as God enabling us to see what is hindering us from freedom. So just imagine an older, I have to say older because I'm old. I'm going to be 68 in a couple of months, so I guess I have to start saying older. Seeing an older person walking down the block with 2 heavy bags. Now, when you've got 2 heavy bags, your walking is laborious. It's slow. You probably have your head down because you want to make sure that you don't fall. And step 6 is, to me, God saying, let me take that from you. Give those to me. Because what I have for you to do in life, those things are going to get in the way. And I'm going to give you what you need so that you can be an agent, an intelligent agent, spearheading my everlasting creation. And so what does God give us? God gives us Him. I become one with God, so it's God's love. It's God's compassion. It says, God, have all of me. My perception of what I think I'm supposed to be. My perception of what I think good and bad is. My sponsor, Mike D., we were having a conversation and he always says, Donna, stop thinking. Because I'm always reminded of, is God everything? And then he hit me with this. If God is everything even in the nothing? And he goes, don't think. And I had to contemplate on that. Because there's times that I think that I'm falling short. That maybe I'm being impatient. Maybe my impatience around you is for you to practice compassion. For you to practice patience. I don't know when and how God is going to use me. So it's not that we become perfect. Am I willing to be a perfect instrument? I get to see the first miracle of step 7 in step 9, which Terry's going to talk about. Because you got to start looking at the words that are used in 9. Sincerity, accountability, looking people in the eye. We become miracles. The last time people saw me, I was ducking and dodging. And now I'm coming to them, looking them in the eye with my shoulders back. If that's not God using us, am I willing to be used by God? And the way that we go through this process, it does it in a manner that doesn't make us feel so afraid of God. Just ask, Donna. Well, we realize that ask is another word for prayer. They talk about the problem, but they also talk about the promise. They talk about the danger of the promise. I used to, when I tried to commit suicide, I used to think that I should be dead by now, but I don't think I was supposed to be dead. Every bit of pain, misery, and despair was necessary. And if you think about it, the pain, misery, and despair that we felt so deep down inside, even that gets removed. And all we're left with is the identification of it all. So that I can identify with your pain. I've heard many people that are on this path with me talk about the prodigal son who probably lived his life like an alcoholic, who lived his life outside in. I lived my life outside in. I always needed something to make me feel better, and alcohol worked for a while because I was a party girl. I was with some people on vacation who were not one of us, and they asked me, and I wasn't planning on breaking my anonymity, but I think that God was using me for them to understand this illness. And they said, Donna, when did you know that you had a problem? And I said, when I realized that I couldn't stop. And they were like, wow. They don't get that. Am I willing to die to self so God can live life in and through me? I have this desire to be on this spiritual path. I don't know where it's going to lead me. I know in this lifetime I was given the gift of willingness. I just know that there is a closeness. Every time I do, it's interesting, every time I do inventory, I get to see some more behavior that wants me to feel separated from you. I can't be one with God if I'm not one with you. And what was coming up in my last inventory is judgment. And the thing that was so beautiful was that everything that I read had to do with judgment. Everything. And I'm sharing it with people on this path. Like, guys, you won't believe what's going on. And I can't be one with God if I'm not one with you. I can't. When I needed power and control, I lived my whole life needing power and control. But when we belong to the human race, we don't need power. We don't need control. I'm looking around where people that normally wouldn't mix. We're different ages, we're different ethnicities, we're different economic, educational. But the one thing we have in common is this illness. We know what pain feels like. See, I believe we were given this pain because we are uniquely qualified to help a segment of the population nobody else can help. I think we were given this pain not just to be okay. If you're sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous just okay, I think you're missing. God saved me from me so I can see God. I've always wanted love. Don't ever remember my mom ever saying she loved me, and I drank over that, man. I drank over that. So if I don't remember my mom saying that she loved me, what is this that I'm seeking? I'm seeking this love. I want love from him. So perhaps the love that I'm looking for is the love of my Father. Maybe the love that I'm looking for is to seek the kingdom, to be right back where I am. And step 7 is that if I'm asking God to take all of me, good and bad, my perception of what I think is good. I remember the first time I was in meditation and I said I had all that I have. And that rocked me because I never said that. I always would say I have all that I need. But I said I have all that I have. And then I had to sit with this, what if, because one of my desires is to travel. But what if I don't get to travel? Am I willing to give that up to God? And I cried. Because if I'm willing to give God all of me, am I willing to give God my desires and my wants? And that was a big admission of willingness. Yes, I'm willing to give up everything that I think I want in my life. And see, right now there's so much uncertainty because I'm a senior citizen. I've got some health issues. I'm around some people that have a lot more money than me. I don't have kids. I'm single. And left up to my thinking, I would not be in a good place. But you know what sustains me is be okay and not know. I got to get my hip replaced, but guess what? I can't get my hip replaced because I got a bone spur. I'm like, really? Be okay and not know. And I think that this is how we demonstrate step 3. God's power, God's love, and God's way of life. I think when we share, we better be doing a hell of a lot more than just saying to people, well, at least I didn't drink today. Because we're all not doing that. Can we stand up here and talk about how we're getting through life? How we're okay and not knowing, because the hardest thing for a human being to do is not know. All we did with alcohol was try to control it. You mean to tell me I come here and you tell me it's not about control? How do I not do that? And there's something magical that happens. I had to have a deep first-step experience in some areas. Codependency. I was making a man my God. Willingness to go to any length. I was living in Harlem. I was taking 2 subways and a ferry to my Staten Island black belt in the big book in Al-Anon. 2 subways and a ferry. I did a piece of work with another woman who had a big book workshop. 7 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock West Coast time, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Every Tuesday I was there, willing to go to any length. And I took another thing that had power with me through that book. And in each of those situations, I did not stop doing the thing that I couldn't stop doing. In each of those situations, the problem was removed. So I stand here before you to say that I'm willing to go to any length. I'm willing to not know. I'm willing to stand here and be in position. And you know, I tell people that we really shouldn't be nervous about speaking because we're going to do this until we can't do it anymore. So why worry about what you're going to say in one particular meeting? You've got a lifetime of meetings to share. Because there's somebody in here that needed to hear Nicoletta, Calvin, me, Terry, and Brenda. He's just using us 5, and the next time he's going to use you. And all you got to do is just be ready. So I don't know how much time I have but I'm like Calvin, I'm done. Thank you.